Hi, everyone. Hello there. Hi, Susheela. How are you?
I am good. Hi, Millie.
Hi. So we're here with February's forecast, which I feel is finally going to feel like the year is getting started.
Yeah.
Um, we had a lot happen in January with Venus retrograde, Mercury going retrograde, retrograding from Aquarius back into Capricorn,
Mhm.
and all of that Earth energy really ending the month of January with a lot more clarity than the last several weeks, the previous several weeks, right? Especially when it comes to relationships, when it comes to what we invest our time in, who we invested in, what deserves our time, energy, and attention, and honoring all of those things that really takes energy from us, and us coming to the space where we can say, okay, I'm being much more mindful and intentional of where I'm placing all of that. And coming out of January just with a clearer sense of self, I think that a lot of people are feeling they're much more in touch with their sense of empowerment,
Mhm.
even if there have been events that have transpired that may have felt somewhat difficult, especially the second half of January.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, it's as if, you're in the middle of a lake and, the water is kind of murky and you're there and you're floating and everything's as it is and you've figured out how to tread water. And as the month goes, you're kind of like, hey, this water's getting clearer, or like the sediment is going down. It's like I can actually see my feet in this water. Like there's some kind of feeling like without even doing anything differently, like you've just been there for all this time, it's like something's clearing up somehow all on its own, where it's like
Right.
it's less murky, it's clearer, you've acclimatized, there's all that stuff going on. And I think too with the relationship issue, whatever those relationships are, whether it's your intimate relationships or your work relationships or family or whatever, or even just how you see yourself, I think there's been this shift to the other stuff. The murkiness has fallen away, the sediment has sunk to the bottom, and what you're left with is like, yeah, this is the stuff that feels good, or this is the stuff that's I'm going in the direction of what's lighter and clearer and non you know it, cumbersome.
Right. Right. And the energy that's really lending itself to that is all of that Capricorn energy. And although we are in Aquarius season, Aquarius and Capricorn are both ruled by the planet of Saturn, which is energy of just doing what you know you have to do.
Hmm.
It's really clear, it's very direct. There's no fuss, like you said, there's no murkiness. And at this point, we're moving into February with energy lending itself and supporting us to really move in the direction that we've been craving for a long time. And for one reason or another, things have gotten in the way, or we needed to finish off certain loose ends and just ready to move forward. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with Mercury coming together with Pluto and the human mind finally catching up to what the soul has known all along. And it just being clear, these are the decisions I have to make. This is the way I need to move forward in. And February is a lovely month for that.
Yeah, it feels like, when you're a kid, and I've witnessed my own kids do this. You have training wheels on your bicycle, and they're useless, really. They don't train you to do anything. All you end up doing is slumping to one side and riding the other wheel. And it's only once you take those off that you begin to balance on your own. And there's a point where you just get it, like where it's that nice free ride of like you're not trying anymore. You get to go wee, like I'm doing it. And that's what this month feels like. You're doing the same thing, it's just unencumbered and it's a little more fun.
Right, right. That's a really great analogy. Absolutely. The training wheels are coming off. So, and appropriately so, the cosmos decided to start us off with a new moon
Yeah.
in Aquarius. And that new moon in Aquarius is really lovely because we have the moon and the sun obviously together in order to create a new moon. But right next to those two is the planet Saturn, the planet of commitment, consistency, the internal adult that allows us to make decisions that are for our well-being in the long run, that really makes us think about, is this something I really want to commit myself to? Or is there something else that I really want to do that actually deserves all of my energy? And one of the aspects that I love about this new moon is that Venus, the planet that just came out of a 40-day retrograde, is moving, or has already by February 1st moved direct, and it's creating a really beautiful trine to Uranus, also newly direct in Taurus. So this is Venus, which represents relationships, relationship to ourself, our desires being a form of intuition, being a form of our heart speaking to us and saying, you feel attracted to this, there's something there, but from a much more mature perspective because it's in Capricorn. And the connection to Uranus is saying, dare to go after that. Dare to go after that. Uranus in Taurus for a few years now has represented the breaking of that which feels comfortable and traditional. And so now these two energies and earth signs are saying it's okay to build, it's okay to do something, to create what your heart desires. But how do you ground yourself in that? How is that grounding? And even though it's Uranus, it doesn't have to be something that spirals us out of control or that makes us do things that are harmful for us in the long run. It's about being excited, trying something new. And of course, after all of the transformation that we've been through in the last couple of months with just getting closer to ourselves.
Yeah, it's, the first two cards that I pulled out for this February 1st. So it's the first of the month. The Lunar New Year is beginning as well, in the year of the tiger. The cards that flew out, like they flew out together as a pair, like, whoo, here you go. Here's a gift kind of thing. And so we got the 7 and the 9 of cups, and new moons are really good for intention setting. And, the 7 of cups is often about choices, and he's looking up there, like, what are all these options? I've got all these cups. What do I want? The downside of it is there could be things like, you're procrastinating because you don't want to make a decision. You don't want to make the wrong decision, but think about what it is that you want. You do have all the options on this new moon. You have the options to focus on what you want, not sit there and go, what is the right thing for me? How about what I really want is the right thing for me, and I want that to show up. I want it to manifest. So it's thinking about that as opposed to, I only have 7 options, which, is a lot of options.
Right.
I have to pick those. Instead of that, like, wipe the slate clean and formulate the thing that you desire. And so with that, then we have wish fulfillment. I put that over here, it's a little better. The 9 of cups, that's actual wish fulfillment. You get all the cups. 9 is the completion cycle. So February, I think, starting off like this, the brakes are off. You actually get to manifest that thing. So with all those trials and tribulations and everything we've gone through for the last 5 months, especially, I think, focus. I think most people do know what they want. They certainly know what they don't want.
Exactly.
I think we're left with some clarity as to what it is that we want. And it's basically saying, put those intentions forth because you're going to get them.
Exactly. And it's the cosmos are also reminding us that it's okay for us to be practical about, and it's almost advised, if you will, supported, if we're practical about the approach that we take towards a new endeavor, a new relationship, or just this new phase in our lives. And this is especially true because on February 3rd, Mercury finally moves direct as well. And it moves direct at 24 degrees Capricorn, which is the degree that Pluto in Capricorn was in for a long time. It's a degree in which Venus met Pluto as well, November, December. It's a degree that Mercury has been in before, in mid-January. So a lot of these thoughts, conversations, agreements that started taking place, I want to say as early December. I would even go back to November, but at the very least, early December, everything has been reviewed, has been reconsidered. There have been changes, and it's all in Capricorn. So everything that has unfolded has made a lot of things clear. This is what can continue. This is what cannot continue. These are the habits that are good for me. These are the habits that are not, right? So everything is very clear and very direct. And that's good because it simplifies a lot of things. And we're going to want that type of simplicity, especially on a daily basis. On a daily basis, when it has to do, this is what I have to do today, this is what's going to get my attention, and I can check that off my list and I can move forward.
Yeah. So we've got King of Cups energy. So it's a fatherly energy, like in the softest, nicest sense. Sometimes there's a wishy-washy quality to this card, but it's generally like the dad vibe of somebody who, you know, can make you a grilled cheese sandwich and, you know, coach your little league game. It's that kind of vibe, like somebody who's there for you. It's like, you know, I can protect you, I can stand up for you, I can also give you a cuddle, you know, that kind of vibe. And similar to what happened the last time Mercury went retrograde. Ooh, that was tough to say. We had this vibe of the Chariot. Let's get that over here, where we're always expecting everything to be like, okay, Mercury's gone direct, and now the brakes are off, let's go. And we are expecting to like fly forward, and it doesn't happen right away. And there's still this feeling of divine timing. It's like, you're not going to just snap your fingers and go like, oh, I'm out of it. There's this like, you know, lean on that energy of something solid, something like, you know, comfortable and familiar, and what makes you feel still in your comfort zone. But then it's like, yeah, the changes are happening. You have to balance again. I mean, it's kind of funny that he's on a bicycle. We're just talking about that, but it is balancing the light and the dark. And it's like taking you cautiously forward. It's nothing to be afraid of, but it's like taking you in that protective kind of way. It's like everything's unfolding in the right time. So just be a little patient. And it's not to say that it's going slow. It's just that maybe it's not going as fast as you want. It's not going to be instant.
Right. And I think it's important to point out that, again, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is in astrology, it's known as Father Time. It rules Chronos, right? And it plays part into what you just said, the kind of like the father figure, right? There's guidance if we allow it to come in. And considering that, again, we're starting the month with a new moon, we have to remember that the energy of a new moon doesn't fully unfold till 6 months later, when we have the full moon in that, which won't be till August. So these new things that we're planting the seeds for, that we're going to implement, that are going to feel different, that is going to expose a different part of us, we're going to dare to do things differently. There's time for that to unfold. And it's exactly what you said. It's that divine timing.
Yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned that too, about this moon, you know, that energy. It's not for a 3-day period or a 2-week period. It's a very lengthy energy that goes through. And especially because it is like this Lunar New Year. There's so many things like hinging on this event that you will not necessarily feel all of that at one time. It's this unfolding, it's a wave that's going to be rippling out over the next 6 months.
Yes. And I think this has a lot to do with the fact that this is much accumulation in Capricorn energy between the end of January and the beginning of February. Yes, we're in Aquarius season, but it still feels like massive Capricorn season because we're coming full circle to energy that was very active at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And think about the transformation that we've endured internally in the last 2 years. So here come the cosmos full circle, the beginning of 2022. And it's about, yes, we're going to be consistent. We're going to work through things. We're going to do relationships. It's exactly what you said in the beginning. We're going to do the same things,
Yeah.
but from a different stance within us.
Yeah.
And the cosmos are so echoing that. They're echoing our internal process, which is why whatever it is that we want to plant the seeds for with this really lovely new moon, we have to give it time. And I think we'll see that significantly within the 6 months. What is supported is finally like action. It's action, inspired action.
Mm-hmm.
Action that is inspired with what is aligned with us, with what we love. And that's true because on February 4th, we have Mars in Capricorn sextiling Jupiter in Pisces. I think that's really lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is any aspect that translates into inspired action, is Jupiter, which is inspiration of being aligned with spirit, action, which is Mars. And this is the perfect balance of both because Jupiter in Pisces is energy of the ethereal, energy of connecting with God consciousness. And Mars in Capricorn is very earthy, very grounding, very practical. Yes, I have this aspiration. I have this dream. I believe with all my heart that I can do it. Mars in Capricorn. All right, let's get to work. What are you going to do on a daily basis? What's the month plan? What's the 3-month plan? What's the 6-month plan? It's really meeting both together. And I really love this energy because I think that this is the energy that where people are going to finally see, for instance, what we do with astrology and tarot. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're not telling you that things are going to magically happen. And the cosmos never have either.
No.
And this is the perfect example of that.
Yeah. And I was laughing because you know how it is. You've got your aspects that are happening and I have the cards, and it's only when we actually meet here live that we see how they merge, and they always merge, and it blows my mind. And so you're saying stuff, it's almost like the words that I'm about to tell you, so I'll use different words. So the two cards that came out for that are the Tower and the Ace of Pentacles. And so just so you don't be afraid of this card, I'll talk about this one first. Okay, so even though it came out second, the Ace of Pentacles is that first seed of something practical. It's all the, you know, whether they're pentacles, different cards call them discs, sometimes they're coins or materials, whatever. It is about the practical aspect of life. But the aces are all that first, you know, that first chunk of money that you receive, or that first idea that gets nurtured, or the first contact that you make in your new business, or signing the document to get that lease space, or, you know, whatever it is, it's that very first thing, the first boom step that you take in that. It's after the planning and thinking, but it's that first practical step, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. So that's very much in alignment. Now the Tower, you know, people fear this card just like they fear the Death card and other things, and the Three of Swords, but it's the Tower in this case gives you that opportunity to tear things down, because you're saying, you know, the universe is telling you, you have the opportunity right now to do something in a different way. So you're putting up your vision board. Are you sure you want to put that thing over there? And then you go, not really. I'm gonna scrap it all over and I'm gonna start fresh. That's really all it's saying. And then you've got this, and you've got that first, you know, it could be you were waiting on a sum of money, or, you know, anything in that practical material sense of what it is you want to do, the actual doing of it. is there. It's just being, it's being handed to you if you ask for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's interesting how for a while, and I noticed that I was thinking about our previous months, our previous recordings, and how a lot of it had to do with allow things to unfold, take a step back. Yes, do what you're responsible for, but things will come. And now we come to February and it's like, all right, now our human gets to really have a lot of fun and do, right? I meant to mention that also on February 4th, while we have that connection between Mars and Jupiter in Pisces, we have the sun, which represents us, our ego, our vitality, our human, coming together with Saturn. On the one hand, it's about commitment to self. How do I keep promises to myself? How do I show up for myself? But in general, this is like shining a light on what we want to commit to, and then taking the practical steps that are fully divinely supported. And all of this energy is about really getting away from anything that distracts you, getting away from anything that brings your life unnecessary distraction, unnecessary drama. The energy of Capricorn and Aquarius is so clear, and it's so detached, and not in a way where it's trying. It's just less is more.
Yep.
Simplicity is key. So the commitment to that is the commitment component to ourselves and to what allows us to shine genuinely is beautiful for the month of February.
And so for that aspect, I have both the 2 and the 3 of Swords, which is interesting because, you know, this is a lot of pain and agony and suffering and grief and drama and wounds and all of that stuff. And, you know, let's just focus on that for a second. We went through all this, and you talk about shining a light on something. It was like, while we're doing this, don't forget what happened over here. Remember that thing? So as you are making your plan and your decisions and your vision board and your request to the universe, remember this thing. It's staying away from this. We do not need to recreate that. You have the wounds to show that you survived. You don't need to pick them open and, you know. So the 2 of Swords is always about, you know, there's a blindfold on this guy, because there's certain things that we don't want to look at. And so a lot of the issues surrounding our emotions or our heart or our heartache, we tend to rationalize and apply our thinking mind, our intellect to, and that's not how we solve those issues. So our heart, and I say this all the time, and people go, yeah, I get it, until you actually have to apply it. Right. So you use your intellect to plot out and plan out and mark the steps and do all that stuff of what it is that you want to accomplish in this month, in this, you know, quarter, whatever it is. But then you apply your feelings to the things that affect your heart and your emotions. And you don't apply your emotions to all your thinking stuff and make impulsive and just, you know, crazy decisions, just like you don't try and rationalize who you love.
Right.
So.
Yes. And I love that you brought up the keeping in mind the lessons that brought us here, because Saturn, whenever I talk about Saturn and I say Saturn is the energy and the planet of the internal adult, what I mean by that is that Saturn is known as a planet of karma. It's also known as the planet of mastering. None of those two things can really happen without an accumulation of energy that happened previously. So what I mean by that is karmic energy can't unfold without something happening prior, without having experience prior to that. A mastering of something cannot unfold unless we are actually in the action of experience.
Yeah.
So when Saturn has significant transits like this one, It's about remember. And mind you, this is the year that Saturn hits the midway point, the halfway point of its transit through the sign of Aquarius. So there's a clear before and after. 2021 was all of that. Remember the lessons. And then 2022 is about implementing those lessons. And the sun, ruled by Leo, which is also the sign of the heart, which I found really interesting, that those are the cards that came up for that. So that's really again, the synchronicity and energy is really lovely.
Yeah.
So on February 8th, we have Mars trine Uranus. I'm just loving these aspects. Look, whenever we have a trine between two planets, it's because those two planets are in the same element. So we have Mars in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. So those two are earth energies. Mars is the planet of action. Uranus is the planet of disruption, disruption of the traditional. And that's what's taking place slowly and steadily. For us, this means that because Mars is the planet of action, we're taking committed action towards something and we're building it differently. But the connection between these two is, again, grounded courage. I have the courage to move towards this bigger dream and aspiration, but because I've actually done my research, I've asked around, I've asked for help, I've asked people who know more than I do, which is very much a Capricornian trait, Mars and Capricorn, because I want to do things right this time around. If this has to do with relationships, it's like, well, we've been in a relationship for a long time, and for us, it's very uncomfortable to go to therapy together, but we're being courageous and stepping into something, out of our comfort zone, going to someone else who knows better than us so that they can help us in this part of our journey. So just to give you a little bit of multiple manifestations of this, the Mars trine Uranus, that excites me. It's like, if I dare, but I have to be grounded and mature about it. If I dare, I'm supported. And that's exciting.
Yeah. So the two cards that I have for that are the Knight of Cups and Nine of Wands. And so, everybody's heard me say this before, that knights are champions of things. They charge forward, and some of them charge with, lightning like intensity and speed, and other ones walk in front of their horse, dragging them along. But they're still these champions of whatever the elements are of their suit. And so cups are all about the things that feed and nurture us. It's heart focused again. And it's typically an offer of love is what it is, whether you are offering that or somebody or something else is offering it to you, or you're offering it to yourself. But it's coming from that place. It's not that just bold Mars energy of total drive. It's like this, I am driving forward, but it is heart focused. Now, if you compare that back to what I just said about the Two of Swords, where you have to sort of separate the head from the heart and not get them all bungled up. In this case, it's like you can still use your head, but lead with your heart. Have your heart open. It's not about just intellectualizing all the practical aspects. It's also feeling like, just make those decisions from the right place of like, okay, I'm charging forward here, determined, not haphazardly. I'm going forward with my heart open because I want to experience something. I've cleared things. I've healed things. I want fulfillment. So even fulfillment at work is still heart focused. How you do that is intellect. It's the practical aspects of your mind. And so the Nine of Wands in this case is really about setting boundaries. It's like drawing a line in the sand. I've come to this point. I am not going to do this the way I used to do it, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship. It's like, no, I'm not doing this again that way. It's either starting a new relationship, or looking for a different type of environment, or realizing what your worth is, you know, so that you can cross beyond this point and never go back.
I smiled when you said the worth thing, because I think that that's the one thing that's been coming up for me in multiple ways. So whenever you pull cards, and like you said, it's when we go live that I know what you're pulling. I'm like, inside of me, I'm like, oh my God, she's she's reading my mind. But it's true. It's I feel like at this point, it's like there's a part of us that's just so tired,
Yeah.
not just of other people's BS, but of our own. And it's like, I'm tired. I cannot pretend in anything anymore. I just cannot.
Yeah.
And it's that energy that is so clear, it's so simple, and it's so liberating. So liberating from anything that feels heavy, stagnant, shackled in any way. And that's Uranus energy. And what emphasizes this clarity is the fact that on February 11th, Mercury in Capricorn conjuncts Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees. So I have a few things to say about this.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury and Pluto have come together 3 times in the last couple of months. The first time was December 29th. The second one was January 28th, 2022. And then the third time is going to be February 11th.
Okay.
Now, whenever the planets do that, it's a story that unfolds. It's a beginning, a middle, and an end. February 11th is going to be the end of something that we were thinking about, mulling over. If this is a conversation, especially an intense and difficult but very honest conversation with someone else, come mid-February, this is a turning point in that. And if it's been something that it's like we've just been hammering the same thing on, and one person can't let it go, the other person will. It's like, it's done. I'm done beating a dead horse. I've already said what I've had to say. You can't get over, I'm sorry. If you can't get over it, I can't do anything about that. It's such clarity. And just again, this unwillingness to continue dragging things from the past forward. This is a great energy for research, investigation, self-analysis, speaking your truth. But I also want to point out that this is happening at 27 degrees Capricorn. The full moon in Cancer that we had on January 17th was at 27 degrees Cancer. The moon was at 27 degrees, directly opposite of that. The sun in Capricorn was at 27 degrees. Full moons are of emotional recognition, emotional culmination. That's why we felt it the way we felt it, because that was a heavy one. It's a truth. It's a truth that came up for us then, has been unfolding, mulling over. We've been thinking about it. Come mid-February, February 11th, it's like we figure out how to move past that, how to do it differently. And it's very decisive and very honest and confident and full of integrity, because it's aligned with what we want.
Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, I was, of course, chuckling again, because there's a couple of things you said that are very much the 2 cards that I pulled. So the Knight of Pentacles, so contrasting to the Knight of Cups, he's the slow guy. Okay, this is the slow, steady guy. And I've always said, you know, if you're familiar with horses at all, if you have to walk in front of a thoroughbred, and instead of getting on its back and walk it through a grassy field, good luck, because they go 2 feet and eat some grass, and go 2 feet and eat some grass. It's the slowest. You know, you'd get across the field faster on your own hands and knees than you would trying to get a horse through a grassy field like that. So it is moving. It is a slow, loyal, determined knight. And again, it's the champion of things that are material. So Capricorn energy again. It's
Mhm.
that kind of thing, earthy energy. But
Mhm.
with it, and this is a nice card. This is like, this is a stable, whatever it is, if this is a friend, if this is a situation, if this is you, if this is a card of integrity and loyalty and steady steps, even if they're 1 millimeter at a time in a certain direction, you are going, and you are, he's all spiffy there, like he's got, he's walking with this horse, and he's got his little bow tie and his suspenders and his red shirt, and he's just diligently moving forward pleasantly. Everything's pleasant, nice blue sky, everything's good. And in connection with that, we have the Six of Cups, which is that all the words that we had before, the revisiting, the renewal, the soulmate stuff, the people from the past life stuff, nostalgia. It's harmony and balance. Sixes are usually a balanced energy. And technically, Knights would be like a number 12 as well. So, if we're counting up, page would be an 11, and then the Knight would be a 12. And so there is that, in a love relationship, looking back and saying, is this the thing that will actually carry me forward? Am I doing this just out of my integrity and my loyalty and my steadfastness,
Mhm.
or is this actually going to serve me? Like, and it's, at some point, relationships need to be reciprocal if they're going to go the long term. Otherwise, they're not that important. You can have relationships that are not reciprocal,
Right.
and they can function, but that's typically not the big ones in whatever case. That's not the cases, an employer and employee. That's not spouse. That's not, it's a different dynamic. And so it's saying, in your most important relationships, yes, you have all these traits and they're wonderful, and you take action and you do things and you apply yourself. But then there's also this. And if it's not applying to a relationship, think about all the other ways that you need reciprocity, that there's things coming from the past, that things have to balance out. We're seeking balance all the time. So if something is off kilter, if you create a void somewhere, it will get filled. The universe will fill that void with something. And if you're constantly, trying to create that balance, if that's difficult for you, then you're creating conflict more than creating balance.
Oof. Yes. Yes. Oof. That hit me.
And cups are like, when you think of the moon that we had in Cancer too. I mean, Cancer's the moon, or Cancer's ruled by the moon, and it was like so much emotion, and cups are so much emotion, and there is all those feelings of nostalgia, and no, this could have been, and that could have been, and remember that thing, and this felt good, whatever. But going forward, you can't just live on those things anymore. You can't just live on the emotion of something. It needs the steps and the, all of that, all of those tiny steps that the Knight of Pentacles is so good at, so honorable, needs to be applied to something worth its value. And there's the worth thing again.
Right.
You'd never want to change this. If this is your qualities that you have, you don't want to compromise your integrity or your values or your loyalty or your, you showing up for something just because you're not receiving. You need to then find the thing that gives you what this is equal to.
Yes, absolutely. The you talking about the balance, this balance is really a good segue into Venus and Mars coming together in Capricorn yet again on February 16th. And this is the first time in a very long time that the cosmic lovers, the principle of feminine and masculine energy within us, in our interactions, outside of us, just this balance of energy, doing versus receiving and knowing when to do each one, for the first time after a really significant Capricorn transformative energy cycle, them coming together again in an earth sign in Capricorn, and saying, and just being very honest about our interaction, who, what deserves my time, energy, and effort. And it's not because I think I'm better than anyone. It's not from an egoic place. It's just from a place where we're seeking balance and harmony within. And if there are two planets that represent that, especially when they work together, it's Mars and Venus, especially coming together. On the one hand, when it comes to relationships, this is a clear indicator. You guys really, we all really need to relate from a much more grown-up place. And what's that grown-up place? Well, what have we learned about relationships in the last 2 years? It's exactly what you said. What have we learned we don't want? Right? And how do we honor that? We honor our boundaries, where we remain in line with that integrity within ourselves. I want to point out something that's really interesting, and that is that in 2020, that's when shit hit the fan, right? And all this stuff happened. It was also a year that broke a lot of relationships, a lot. We saw it left and right. Well, that year, Mars and Venus were rarely ever in the sky, rarely ever in placements that were kind to one another. Summer of 2020, yes, summer of 2020, Venus went retrograde in Gemini in the middle of the year.
I remember that. That was so profound that honestly, you'd swear everybody got the memo.
Yeah.
Right, people, this is what's happening. Everything comes to a halt. Boom. It was so obvious.
Yes, it's funny that you say the memo, because Gemini is the messenger of the zodiac. But 2020, again, we go back to 2020 because it's coming full circle this year. So rarely were Mars and Venus in nice connection to one another. They were very disharmonious. And think about it. If they're the principle, if those two planets are the principle of balance within us, outside of us, in our relationships, all of that, think about that. If they were not in harmony, we were not in so many ways. The concept of mental health shot up to the sky because of how much imbalance and disharmony there was within us. February being the lovely month that it is, which I consider actually to be the actual beginning, finally, of 2022, Mars and Venus together in Capricorn, which is the energy that has transformed the entire world and now is coming together with what have you learned over the last 2 years? Now we implement. Now we implement the healthier lessons.
Yeah. So we got 3 cards that flew out together, and I feel that it's like Venus and Mars, and then a bridging energy is how that's coming up. And so this is very cute. Here, let's put it here. There we go. So
It is cute.
The cat and the mouse and all the swords, and fives are always about challenges and conflict and change. And this is, being on guard, defensive. Like, do you want to have stupid arguments? Is that what your life, you talk about being mature? Do you want to just fill your time with stupid arguments and squabbles and bickering and that level of energy, whatever it is, it's not pleasant. And so hopefully that has passed and moving forward. So again, so that's a 5. Then we have a 7. So there's our 12 again, full circle, 12, right? We're talking about the zodiac. So the 7 of Pentacles is about that first sign of growth, where the Ace of Pentacles is that the first seed. But the 7 of Pentacles, when we get there, something's growing. That's where you can actually see, oh, the stuff I planted is growing. Some of that stuff that I planted way back when I was going through all of that in a major way, whatever it is, emotionally, in business, in your relationships, in your mindset, however, it's actually beginning to grow. The stuff that I wanted to feel, the stuff that I wanted to think, the way I envisioned myself, it's actually beginning to grow. It's shining back at me. I'm like, oh yeah, there's some proof that I am on the right track. And so it's not ready to be harvested, but at least you're getting some sign back from the universe that, yeah, all that turmoil, when you go, you talk about that June of 2020, God, that was something. And it's that was a whole lot of this going on. Mice with swords everywhere you look. And then now we get this. It's the same energy in a mature, yeah, I don't want those, got the mice traps out. I'm just not going to deal with that anymore in my life. And so then we have a 0. The Fool is a 0 card. And so it still keeps it, even though 3 cards came out, it still keeps it as a 12 here. And that's having that leap of faith. It's like, okay, I've done this before. I know how it turns out when I actually put my faith into something with practical, some practical experience, practical steps behind it. I can take a leap and the universe will catch me. It's not irresponsibly. This is like, I've done this before. I know how to exercise this manifesting muscle or whatever it is.
Right. I love that. I love that because I think what's becoming clear is that all we have to do is meet the universe halfway. Let's meet it halfway. And it doesn't have to mean anything out of our ordinary reality.
Yeah.
Right? We know what to do. Do it. And the universe will come and support that. Of course, as long as it's aligned with our integrity and what genuinely matters to us, to our soul's purpose. I think that what I'm really looking forward to also on February 16th is a full moon in Leo. That full moon in Leo is at 27 degrees Leo. And I love a good moon in Leo. And I think I'm biased because I have a natal moon in Leo, but it's vibrant, it's creative, it's exciting. And to me, intuitively, when I saw the chart, I thought, this is us shining genuinely. This is us. This is like, and Leo is the sign of the inner child. This is our inner child coming out after all of the stuff that we've been through and just, healed, talked about, processed, been through in relationship and jobs and career projects. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. And here comes this part of us that just shines, shines genuinely. And it's expressive. And we're allowed to express ourselves. We're allowed to express what we want. We're allowed to express what makes us happy. We're allowed to say no. We're allowed to change plans, to change our mind. And it's something that is so empowering. And another thing is that Leo is the sign, it's the actual sign of love. When we commit to ourselves, we show ourselves love. And it's such a powerful, this is such a powerful transit because it's the ending of a 6-month cycle that started last August with the new moon in Leo. That was a tough month because at the time we had the Uranus Saturn square, all of the energy in Leo activated that. So it was pretty fixed, forceful energy that I'm sure created some shifts where we started saying, how do I express what's in my heart? Like, what is even in there? How do I dismantle a lot of these things around it that don't allow me to express myself in the most genuine way? And after everything we've talked about the first couple of weeks of February, here's this full moon in Leo that allows us to come and show how much we've blossomed in a way.
Yeah, when you think back to last July, last July, everybody got optimistic again. And
Mhm.
then Leo came along, and it was almost like all these gears started to move into action. And you're like, oh, great, everything's moving, everything's moving. And then it was like, as soon as it started up, it hadn't been moving for so long that all those gears went,
Mhm.
when all the Leo stuff happened in August. It was like all those gears just kind of went like, you could almost sit back and go, something's gonna blow. Like, it was that kind of energy. Like,
Right.
like just keep going, like something's gonna, duck,
Right.
be prepared to duck and cover at any given moment. And so the funny thing is, again, when I pulled the two cards for this, we actually have the card that means Leo in the tarot deck, which is
Oh,
the
wow.
sun. And often there's a lion in it. There isn't in this case. We have a sunbathing lizard instead, in pretty awesome shoes. And it just made me laugh, because this is really, like, I guess, the happiest card in the tarot deck. Okay,
Mhm.
it's the sun shining on everything, and it doesn't have a negative connotation like the sun might have in real life, where you could have drought or you could have sunburn or whatever. It's
Mhm.
just the right amount of sun in the right way, in the nicest way possible. And then we also have the Ace of Swords with our little hummingbird, and it's about transformation and communication and intellect and truth, and using your voice and being connected to, maybe connected to information from spirit, or
Mhm.
listening to that other thing. So it's all about throat chakra kind of stuff. Throat chakra, third eye chakra. It's all about fine tuning that information, transforming, translating a new course of study, or anything like that. But it comes to a focal point. And then with that Leo sun business, it makes everything nice. It makes that decision and that ability and the time that you set aside to do that pleasant. It's just pleasant. And so comparing even that new moon to the full moon energy, it's a culminating, and you go back to August, where those gears, all this time we've been working. It's almost like those little mice have been like working in the background, getting all the gears ready. And they're like, okay, now you know what you want to do. And it's like, ooh, press the button. And it just like smoothly goes into action. And the swords are not like, swords are pointed and they're sharp, and they can, many of the sword cards are they look painful. But on the positive side of that, you know, everybody can appreciate a very sharp knife in the kitchen. You have your favorite utensil, and it does its job, and it's, you will have it, you can pass it down. Like, I have knives that were passed down from my father, because it's this
Mhm.
perfect kitchen knife, and it's like that. It's like an arrow, or something that's very precision oriented, that serves a purpose. And when you're skilled, you know how to use it, and you don't use it for harm. Your intellect can be used for harm. But with the sun here, this is like an opportunity to really do something wonderful.
Mhm. Yeah. And we talked about the Venus Mars conjunction on the same day. That's obviously part of this full moon, of the full moon's chart. So one thing that has become clear is that, at least for me personally, is that if anything I'm about to embark on feels like it's going to create some kind of disharmony or imbalance, maybe that's just not the thing.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of the difficulty of what it is, or if it's too much,
Yeah.
if it's another thing on my plate. It's, we can have a lot of things that we're doing at once, but all of them bring us joy.
Hmm.
And they don't necessarily have to create an imbalance or a disharmony. Is that what creates an imbalance and disharmony is when it doesn't align with that sun energy, with what makes us happy.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, it's like what you're saying. It's not about dropping something too quickly because it involves hard work,
Mm,
or being fickle, saying, oh, I didn't get it on the first shot, so I'm going to give up. It doesn't feel good. It feels stressful or whatever, and just dropping it. It's not that energy at all. It's like
no.
really getting to that truth that, is this in alignment? It doesn't matter how difficult it is or how many things you have going on. It's aligning to that pinpoint of, is this a yes or is this a no, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right,
And getting into balance and harmony that way. And
right,
it's knowing that feeling of, is this for me or is it not, versus is this too difficult and stressful because it's not meant for me.
right, right. And just one last thing, think about how many relationships are just dropped in an instant
Yeah.
because things feel hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think we're going to be moving far more away from that, where people are going to be much more intentional about the types of relationships that they're getting into. And Leo being the sign of the heart, um, that's also what the cosmos and the cards are highlighting. Be mindful of your heart.
Yeah.
Be mindful of that.
And
Um,
everything so far too in February has that vibe of knowing when something is worthwhile, whatever it is this struggle worthwhile?
right,
Am I doing this knowing what my self-worth is? You know, am I doing this because I'm codependent? Am I sticking with something far beyond its usefulness? Or so it's that Ace of Swords is having that focus to actually know the difference between those two things. Like, when do you don't when do you not just chuck it because it's difficult?
mhm, mhm,
And when do you go, yeah, this is just not, if I continue with this is creating more friction in my life than what I need to carry forward.
right, right. I love that. So we moved to February 17th, and this date in particular is one of the dates that I find to be really cool because it's Jupiter sextiling Uranus. This is what we call two outer planets, two of the big leaguers, right? Jupiter, the planet of expansion and optimism, and in Pisces, which is a sign that it rules. So there's kind of like this magical quality about Jupiter and Pisces in so many ways, creatively, healing, connecting, your intuitive and psychic abilities just being that much sharper. And then Uranus and Taurus, which is magical in itself because Uranus makes us uncomfortable in that it's going to keep us away from that which we don't have the courage for us to keep away from, right?
Mm-hmm.
When these two come together in a sextile, sextiles don't necessarily make things happen for us, although I think this sextile might. This is magical energy, without romanticizing this, that if we take action, again, if we're courageous, if we're diligent, opportunities can come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not opportunities. I think that for some people, opportunities will arise in February with this particular transit. But planting the seed and saying, something in me tells me that if I perhaps talk to this person, connect with this person, or send, my work here, or make this connection,
Mm-hmm.
something's gonna come out of it. But remember, and it's what we've been saying all along, the only way that we can have that kind of clarity is if we remain consistent and sharp, like you just said, just sharp and aligned with what really is meant for us, all
Mm-hmm.
BS aside. So this Jupiter sextile Uranus is really lovely energy. It's expansive energy. Whenever we have an aspect that connects two outer planets, that's like all cosmic energy supporting us.
Mm-hmm.
It's energy of our guides and our angels, like saying, we're sprinkling this on you. we're pushing you, we're elevating you.
Mhm.
And we're just like, all right, well, I've done this work. I have all my stuff ready. I'm organized. This is an aspect of opportunity meeting preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this particular deck, we've got an additional card. And so we've got that Fool card that I showed you. Okay,
Mhm.
which is a 0. And if you notice, this is the first card that is not half human with an animal head. Okay, so it's the 0. It's the very first leap of faith. Let me jump down, into this funny world that we have here. And we have another Fool. It's called Fool 2.0. And it's the same little doggy, but it's gone full circle. So
Wow.
this is the very first one. And then we have every other card in the deck, the others 77 of them. And then we get this one, the 79th card, full circle, reset button, the Fool 2.0. The same cliff, the same little red feather, but we've come full circle. And with that, we have the Empress energy. And I've been talking a lot about the Empress energy everywhere I go. Every reading I do, there is this divine feminine energy. And in connection to that, in this case, we have this little chick on her lap here because there is a sense of gestation.
Mhm.
So when we think about something gestating, you cannot rush it. It takes how long it takes. And yes, some people are born, 2 months ahead of time. I was one of them, but you can't do it in 3 weeks. Like there's a certain amount of time that's doable where you can sort of move those, the end date back and forth a little bit, but you can't do it to a point where, no, if it's at 3 weeks, you're not getting what is gestating. You just not. That's not what's supposed to happen. So having those two energies there, it's like we are, and this is about receptive energy as well. So when you talk about the universe giving you this is like, are you ready to receive? All you have to do is bring your backpack and a good pair of walking shoes, and we'll bring you to the place where you can do the thing, because there's an infinity symbol there as well. So we've got a 0 symbol, just a 0, wide open, full of potential. And now you have infinite potential. So that's kind of the difference.
I love that. I love that. I think what came up for me as you were saying that is you did a reading for me a couple of months ago.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like, I can't remember exactly when, but it was pretty much like, you gotta let things happen. Like things are not gonna happen any sooner than they're meant to. And I have to tell you that ever since that reading, it was like, this is where that notion for me of like meeting the universe halfway really just clicked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're mentioning, like this infinite potential, it is infinite. It is infinite when we do our part and then we let the universe come in. And it doesn't have to be anything out of the ordinary. And I think that that's one thing that perhaps a lot of people like picture it, that it has to be something extraordinary. Like it
Yeah.
has to be extraordinary effort when it doesn't.
No.
If it's aligned with us and if it's meant for us, it's going to happen. It's just that it happens in divine timing.
Yeah. And that thing is, it's like baking a cake. You could make an elaborate cake and get your eggs from the farmer's market and get your organic flour and do your thing and whip everything in the fanciest machine, or you could buy a box and pour some water in it, whatever. Either way, in either case, you're going to put it in the oven at the right temperature in the right kind of pan or whatever. But if you take it out in 3 minutes, you don't have a cake. It's plain and simple. You're going to have a blah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that takes us to February 23rd, which is Mars, still in Capricorn, sextiling Neptune in Pisces. So this can manifest in a couple of ways. The first way, which I think is really lovely, is Mars, again, in Capricorn, consistent practical action. Neptune in Pisces, the creativity, boundless, endless creativity that can come through meditation, through something that feels, through especially through some kind of spiritual practice, through an art modality of some sort, and combining the two. And again, you have earth energy, you have water energy, you create fertile ground for something to grow. That's Mars, Neptune. Now, on the flip side, this can be a time in which we pretend that that which is there is not happening. The tendency or the a little bit of a desire to put on the rose-colored glasses, the desire to escape, right, can be there. And it's like, I don't think I don't think that it's possible. Mars in Capricorn is very clear. Neptune in Pisces, yes. Does it represent nebulosity? Absolutely. Yeah. But at this point, so be mindful of how you use this energy. It's a sextile, so it's not forceful energy. It's kind of in the background. It's there. But if we're aware of it, we can be intentional as to how we use it. And although this energy perfects on February 23rd, it's available for almost 10 days. So if you can use that to be creative, to connect with, to connect with inspired action. If you pray, if you meditate, if you, whatever it is that you do, connect with something greater and allow that guidance to take you exactly to where you want to go, to guide and support those practical steps that you're taking. Yeah.
And that makes so much sense with this card, which is the World, which is very cute.
Yes.
I love it. It's the fox. So, there's a little bit of that trickster energy there. But this fox is standing in the tree pose and is like all om and whatever.
Right.
But it's the World, and the World is typically the final card in the tarot deck, except that we've got that full reset button. So this is the one right before that. And it's, you have the entire world available to you. So it's just a continuation of that potential. So that first Fool card that we have is that when you think about energy in that real sense, potential energy, right? If we're thinking of a physics experiment or something, the little stand with the 5 balls hanging and you pull one, it's like right there, when you let go, there's that potential energy.
Right.
How much energy do you have? And it gets transferred and it moves.
With
the second Fool card, it's got the infinity symbol. And that's more the feeling of energy can never be created or destroyed. We're putting energy into something. It continues, it works its way around, whether that's in a karmic situation or your legacy or your thoughts, your actions, cause and effect, however you want to think about it. It's ongoing. And as many times as you want to reset, you can. And then you have this. Everything is available to you if you decide. You just have to decide, take action, take those little steps. And then we have this Queen of Swords, which is sort of, that warning that you said, not to be too dreamy about what it is that you want. The Queen of Swords in many decks, here she has her hand face down on the edge of her chair. But she's got that sword at the ready. So she's sitting back and she's comfortable. And she's basically saying, come on, come here, come closer. Okay, think about what you're going to ask or what you're going to offer, whatever you're going to present. It better be good, because this sword is sharp. And that's where we're at. Like, don't come up with like something wishy-washy. You got to come up with something that's going to make sense and have your heart in it and have it be playful and well balanced and everything else. But there's that little warning of like, come a little closer. You're unsure. Well, then you better stay back there. When you come up here, there you go. And there is a relaxed energy, and there's also that peacock feather, which is often, you know, again, third eye. Swords are all about intellect, again, intellect and focus. It's the same. She's got the same sword that we had in the Ace of Swords. It's that fine-tuning focus. You do that, you have the whole world open to you.
Yes, yes. And because Mars and Venus are traveling together, or relatively close to one another for several months, naturally the next day on February 24th is when this same sextile with Neptune in Pisces perfects to Venus. So essentially, Venus is creating a sextile to Neptune just as long as Mars is, right? And Venus is feminine principle, the ability to remain receptive and open. And remember, it's traveling close to Mars. So it's like, know how much effort is enough effort. And I think that that's something that's become clear to a lot of us. Like, I don't need to overgive. I don't need to overdo. I need to be certain that what I give is of good quality and that is enough. And that if as soon as I start doing more than that, I need to question why. I need to say, well, why do I feel the need to do that? Because as soon as we begin over giving and not questioning the intention behind it, we completely annihilate the feminine energy of receptivity.
Yeah.
And so Mars, Venus being together, sextiling Neptune in Pisces is again the cosmos, God, goddess, God consciousness, whatever you want to call it, supporting that which is balanced within us. Now, if we just look at just Venus sextiling Neptune in Pisces, this is lovely creative energy. So this can also be a day that if you want to take off, go to the spa, go somewhere out in nature, if you just want to paint that day or write that day, lovely energy to get in touch with that part of the brain. Lovely. But be mindful that, again, you're not using it as a form of escapism, that you're not escaping your responsibilities. It's really interesting how, as awesome as February is, I think it's the cosmos really like asking us to step up. And yes, I'm supporting you, but you really are responsible for the outcome of your life. And that has always been true, right? And I think that to an extent we've known that. But after everything that's happened in the last 2 years, it's coming full circle this year. We've gotten our power back in a lot of ways, with so many things being clear to us. And now it's a matter of honoring that balance and being much more mindful with the decisions that we make, being much more mindful to know when it's time to give and do and when it's time to sit back and receive.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of, as you're saying that too, first of all, you've said every word of every 3 cards that are there. So I'll leave those out for a moment. But while you were talking, it's giving me this sort of this story in my mind of like, you know, imagine you're a teenager and you just get your driver's license and your parents say, you know, if you work really hard and you get a summer job and you save X amount of money, we'll give you the balance to get your first secondhand car, you know, something that's like 10 years old, and we'll help you get your license, your you know, registration and whatever you need to do, and take it to a mechanic. We'll do all this stuff. So you go, okay. you know, mom and dad, I'm going to go and I'm going to work really hard and cut grass and shovel crap and whatever I have to do to get this. And you go and you go and you go. And it comes to that time where you're ready to go. And instead, your parents hand you over the keys to something that you didn't expect, something even better. And you're like, whoa, now I have to, it's not just this crappy old car that you have to get in through the passenger side door because the driver's side is broke, you know, this is
I do know. Yeah.
yeah, I'm saying that from my own experience. I know what my first car was. And there was a key broken off in the driver's side door. So, you know, it's like that other, there's this leveling up. You worked really hard, you did all this stuff, so we're going to reward you with this other thing. But now there's a level of responsibility there that you're like, oh, now I have like the nicer car, so I can't just, I have to really be careful how I park because it's got no dents on it, and I have to really, you know, take care of it and wash it and vacuum it and do all that stuff because it doesn't look like a piece of crap. Like, so, you know, it's like, it's that kind of a thing. So when you talk about the balance, we get the balance card, Justice.
Oh my goodness.
There's nothing more I can say about that.
Right.
It's karmic energy. It's, you know, and combined with that, so this is what's very interesting, justice and judgment together. So justice can represent the legal system. It can represent your own karma, whether from a past life or this life, cause and effect. You do stuff, you do good, you know, you do something wrong, whatever it is. Okay, it's trying to balance itself out. But then there's judgment. This is the final judgment. And this is a very pleasant card. So you talk about going to the spa and whatever, and you know, it's like, I've arrived, like you can celebrate. If you didn't do the things, this judgment may not be so pleasant. But I think at this point it is pretty pleasant because I think we dealt with the really shadowy stuff back in the fall. That other warning, Seven of Swords, getting away from something, sneaking off, deception. I think in this case it's self-deception. It's a deceptive card, usually about, you know, lying, cheating, whatever, stealing, you know, thievery, whatever, all that kind of stuff. In this case, I think it's us.
Yeah.
So we have this, and we always think we're right and we're all good people, and we don't deserve all the bad things that happen to us and all those stories that we say. It's time to say, I'm not going to sneak off from myself. This is all about myself here. This isn't about other people and things they've done to you and all that stuff. This is all about the self.
Yes. I love that. I think one of the things that has become clear with a lot of the energy that we've been experiencing is one of the best contributions that we can make to the collective, to the collective consciousness and to the world, is to really be the most honest and best version of ourselves, right? And that term is used so much and has been used so much. But I think that after everything we've been through, all of the shadowy stuff that you mentioned, right, that we've had to face, it's like a few cards back, it's like, I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And the way that we get there, the fastest way to get there is to deceive ourselves. And so to again, understand what the energy is about and to intentionally use it is why this is so lovely. And I mean, why we do what we do as well. Speaking of that, on February 24th, which I find to be a really cool aspect, but that can go that can go a complete 80 very quickly. And this is Mercury squaring Uranus and Taurus. So by this point, Mercury has entered Aquarius. So this is about getting in touch with the inner genius. This is about daring to dream and think different ideas and to kind of be a little bit of a mad scientist and just color outside the lines a little bit. See how it works, right? This is especially cool if you're a creative or you work for yourself in any way. If you're an artist of some sort, try something different, try a different approach, right? Squaring Uranus. Look, one of the things in astrology is that squares, because they're harsh aspects, they're seen as bad aspects. And I don't think that that's accurate at all. I think squares cause enough tension where it catalyzes change. Yeah. And we need that. We need that a lot. We need a lot of squares. So Mercury, the planet of communication, cognitive thought, rational processing, creates a 90-degree angle, which is attention, to Uranus and Taurus. On the one hand, like I said, it's a catalyst for change. So it can spark that creative inner genius. And you get this idea of like, oh, I'm going to implement this now at my job. I'm going to share this idea of how we can do things differently. And it might take, right? I'm going to implement this in my creative projects. Or I'm going to try something today that I've never tried before, right? Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and it is also the higher octave of Mercury. So where Mercury is the daily communicator, the messenger, Uranus is the genius. Uranus is the one with like the really grand, expansive ideas. It's still in Taurus. So how do we think outside the box? But let's think outside the box slowly. I have this really big idea. But again, let's break it into pieces. On the other hand, especially around this day, be mindful of your words. Don't put your foot in your mouth. Don't say things you're going to regret. Be mindful. Be mindful of your communication, because it's like you're not even going to be able to think and you're already saying it. Just be mindful. That is really the one thing that I will say, that anytime that Mercury connects with Uranus, it's like we put our foot in our mouth for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, when I think about Mercury, I always think of the swords, because it's that quick energy. It's the tongue, you know, sharp tongue, sharp wit, quick, light on your feet, you know, jumping around kind of thing. It's that Ace of Swords energy. But those swords, as we get higher up in the numbers, they can be detrimental. And a lot of it is, you know, the more swords that we have, like we only need one sword. Like, you know, you're out there, you're a knight, you know, you're carrying one sword. That's all you need. Somebody else can bring a couple along if you do something to this one. But generally speaking, the more swords you have, the more complicated and difficult and cumbersome. It's not an easy thing to bring with you. And the Eight of Swords is, it's typically something that's hindering you, and it comes from within you. It's, you are your own worst enemy. So talking about putting your foot in your mouth, the thing that you feel that you should just say, well, I'm just going to say this, I'm just going to speak my truth. Or my favorite thing is when somebody says, you know, I just have to tell you the truth. And it's actually their opinion about something. It's like, I don't mean to be offensive, followed by the offensive statement. It's very much that. It's like, you are your own worst enemy. And this is, they can easily get out of this. This is not, you know, this is not a barrier of any sort. This blindfold can easily be shaken off. These ropes are very loosely tied around. It's that I don't want to, you know, based on my past, I don't want to see this thing, or I don't want to, whatever. Now, it does feel like a minor energy compared to all the good stuff that's happening. So when you talk about those great ideas and all that stuff, we have the Wheel of Fortune. And it is super fun.
That
It's
looks good. That's a really cool card.
yeah, the Wheel of Fortune is being in the right place at the right time, tapping into fate, you know, nothing's going to just fall into your lap. Just open the door, go out there, see whatever, take a chance. Again, we've got 2 Fool cards leading up to this. Like, we're in Pisces season too. So there's that Pisces energy still going, you know, we've got that big aspect with Jupiter and Pisces and all that stuff going on. And it's that energy sort of focused on a couple of days. And even though it's a very fortunate following your destiny kind of vibe, like take the chance, say the thing, do the thing, you know, whatever, there is still that little warning of
Right.
like, you are your own worst enemy. So just, it can also be the thing that hinders you from this. You know, it can be the negative self-talk, all those boundaries and barriers that you have. It can also be that. But what's really nice is the 6 of discs, and it's a nice way to end this month. And the 6 of discs is really about divine reciprocity. All those little coins that you put out there, all that little effort that you put out there, you don't always get it back from the same source that you gave it to. That energy comes back to you in really magical ways. And it's very balanced energy. There is no negative connotation to this card. Whereas the wheel, you're not always at the top of the wheel. You know, the wheel is a circular thing, and sometimes you're down, sometimes you're up. But the 6 of Pentacles is reciprocity. So a lot of the things that we've seen this month when it comes to the cards, there's a lot about balance. A lot of the cards are about, you know, creating that balance, creating that harmony, stepping out of your comfort zone and leaving all the nonsense behind. It doesn't even feel like a desire to leave the nonsense behind. It's just like, oh yeah, that's not coming with me.
Right.
Like, you can't make me. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I think Uranus plays such a different role this month, in that it's really a breaking of certain behavioral patterns. You know, it's really just the very honest and natural, organic way of breaking away from, like you said, the nonsense.
Yeah.
And when we simplify our lives to what actually matters, if we're in that space, especially in February, February is such a great month to plant the seeds. Such a great month to plant the seeds, because we're at a point where so much energy has been cleared out that it's not just about us doing the work with a bunch of stuff happening inside. It's like, yeah, there's stuff happening. There's always stuff happening, but the clarity and again, behind the intention,
Yeah.
is just such good energy within us, supporting us, that again will not come to fruition anytime soon. But we have to remember also that at the time of this cycle will end in 6 months. The full moon, August, is also an important month for a lot of other reasons, where Uranus is going to play a massive role in the energy that August is going to play out in. So be mindful of this month. It's such a great month to plant the seeds for so many things that matter to you. Remain consistent with yourself, remain honest, be mindful of where you place your energy. Because at this point, you know what deserves it and what doesn't. You
Yeah.
just do.
And I think it's that feeling of the awareness of not being on autopilot.
Ugh, yes,
It's
that
just
is
that it's
perfectly put.
if this vibe of February was like, let's say 4 years ago, it just threw it, this whole energy of February, all these aspects was 4 years ago, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of all the gifts that it's giving us, but we're in this space of like, oh yeah, no, it's like something shows up and you're like, no, oh, I know what's behind door number 2. I'm not opening that. Nope. Nope. In fact, I sold that key. I turned that key into a new pair of earrings. Like, yeah, no, it's so a done deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a
And
good
even,
way.
you know, when you talk about the things planting those seeds and they'll only come to fruition later on, I think one thing that is showing up though, it's not that you will have the final
Right.
thing show up, but you will have signs. You take those tiny little steps and the universe is still at least going, yeah, you're on the right track. So it's not like we're planting seeds and going, oh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing and I'm not going to find out for another 5 months or 6 months. There's a lot of response from the universe going, yeah, keep going. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, you did the right thing. So
Mhm.
I think that's what's going to make February really different and really fun compared to what we've been going through, because we've been going through all that stuff without like, are we really doing the right thing? Because this feels like crap.
Right. That's such a good point, and I'm glad that you said that, because that's absolutely right. We can't forget that Jupiter in Pisces is playing such a major role throughout the year, and it will always be in the background, even if it doesn't get much action,
Mhm.
from other planets. It's still there, and I think that that's definitely something that's that energy that will keep bringing up synchronicities and signs. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. So yes, that's a really, really good point.
All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So
me too.
great. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and share, like, subscribe, and all that usual stuff that we always say. And it's nice to see you again, Millie, of
You
course.
too. You too.
Yeah, we'll see you next month.
Happy February, everyone. Bye.